Hey everyone, my name is Ben and you're listening to a daily dose of English. This is a short, simple podcast that you can listen to every day to improve your English. You can find the transcripts for all episodes and more on benslanguagelab.com. I'm glad you could make it today, because this is a very special episode. In this episode, we're talking about 100 episodes. This is the 100th episode of this podcast that I've recorded. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about it, what the experience has been like, what I've learned, and then we'll go from there. So, a couple of months ago, I decided to set out and make a podcast for English learners, and that's what you've been listening to for the past few days, or months, or however long you've been listening. And I wanted to make it as... Well, really, it's a big part of this project that I'm doing of trying to make a bunch of comprehensible input for English learners without making it a huge part of my life that takes over all my free time. I spend well under an hour every single day working on my YouTube channel, and that has been working really well for me. I started, let's see, so the first episode came out in, what month was that? That's number 70. That's not the first one. The first one was in, because I made this smaller. Hang on, let me open my spreadsheet. The first day of April. January, February, March, April. Yeah. So episodes have been coming out for all of April, May, June, and now we're into July. April, May, June. Yeah, so 3 and a bit months. Well, yeah, that's 100 days, duh. And I started recording things in the beginning of March. And so I've been doing this actually, okay, little secret, I'm recording this now in June. It's actually June 13th right now. I record episodes ahead of time because I like to make sure that they all come out every single day. And so I started in March, and I recorded March, April, May, and now half of June. So 3.5 months. And it's been really nice. I don't feel like it's really stressful. It's not taking over my life. Like I said, I do less than an hour per day. And with that, I'm able to produce 7 podcast episodes per week, plus 2 Tintin episodes and 1 image talk, which comes out to about 2 and some odd hours. So 2.5 hours, let's say. And I'm putting in maybe 30 minutes per day, 30, 40 minutes, something like that. And so it ends up being about a 2-to-1 ratio, a little bit better. And so that means that for every minute of English that I put on my channel, I spend maybe 2 minutes or a little bit less of working on that over the course of the week. And that's been really good because it allows me to also get ahead of things, and I don't have to record every single day. There's many days that I don't record. In fact, during these months where I've been releasing things every single day, I went on vacation for a week or 10 days or something like that, and I wasn't even here to record. But I had plenty of things to go out, and I just let my process make sure that things would be published. And that's the main difference that I think I'm taking with my content and versus basically every other independent comprehensible input creator on YouTube or on the internet, because I plan for things to go out in advance, and I've been working very, very hard on my processes. So to put out a podcast episode, for example, I sit down and I record for about 10 minutes, let's say, and then I actually have a program that I made, which is really very simple. It just processes the audio a little bit and then does a couple other things, which takes me about a minute to run. And then I upload it to YouTube, upload it to my blog on benslanguagelab.com, and that's it. I can do an entire podcast episode in less than 15 minutes from start to finish. I have everything ready in a spreadsheet, which tells me what the episode number is, what the date it's going to be released on. Everything is done basically automatically. I just put in the things where they go. And that's been working really, really well for me. And so if you're thinking about trying to make input for your native language, I definitely recommend going with the what I'd say the process method. Really focus on getting your process down so that you can spend the least amount of time not speaking. That's how I think about it. And so that includes uploading, editing, sending reminders, anything like that involves a work that is not literally sitting down and recording something. When I started the Tintin episodes, I made sure I actually did a couple of test videos. I set up what it would look like. I made sure that I wouldn't need editing. I made a process, everything like that. I set up in advance. Then I recorded a bunch of episodes and then it started to release. I already, at this point in time, let's see, if I go to my Tintin episodes page, right after this, I'm going to record episode 13 of The Secret of the Unicorn, which is going to come out tomorrow in your time. If you're listening to this as it goes live, this episode that I'm going to record of Tintin is going to release tomorrow, not today. But that means that I already have most of The Secret of the Unicorn episodes recorded. I'm already on, most of them. I'm going to record number 13 right now, and number 5 just released. So I'm very ahead on that as well, which allows me to take my time to not feel like I'm rushed, and I never have to do something that is going to be released the very next day. And so that makes sure that I have my consistent schedule, I'm ahead on things, and you all, people that use my videos to learn, can count on videos being released. You know that every single Monday and Wednesday, you're going to see a new Tintin episode. Or not Monday. Monday is Image Talk, I think. Wednesday and Saturday. I don't remember exactly when my own videos come out, but you do probably if you use them. And that's something that I think works really, really well for this. Because the goal of comprehensible input is not to make a couple of videos. You can't just make 10 minutes of videos and then say that's going to be useful for a learner. In order to learn a language, you need hundreds and hundreds of hours of content of the language. And with my process, I'm able to produce, let's see, if I open a calculator, if I do, let's just round down. I do 2 hours of content every month, every week, 2 times 52. Oh, that's just 104. Duh. That means that at this current rate that I'm going, which is very doable for me, I alone, one single person, can produce 104 hours of content in 1 year. That's pretty good. I know of other channels that don't have that after 3 or 4 years. I actually wrote a program at some point which looked into how much time like an entire channel's videos were. That doesn't make sense. It calculated how long all of the videos on a channel are in total. And I looked at a couple of big channels. And there's one that's actually a really good channel. It's by this guy named Lucas, and it's called French Comprehensible Input, and he makes comprehensible input for French. And he's been doing it for a couple of years. I think he's been doing it for like 4 years now, but he has only about 100 hours of content. And the content that he makes is very good, I will say that. However, I think that he's lacking a bit of process. I actually took some of his ideas on what I'm doing on this channel. For example, the Tintin stuff was right out of his videos. But my guess is that he has too much extra time in his process. He's maybe editing things, or he's taking a lot of time to upload stuff and write descriptions or something like that, which is taking away from his ability to make more content, which would be amazing because it's a fantastic resource for anybody looking to learn French. And so what I'm trying to do is make my processes repeatable so that other people in the future can use them to make their own comprehensible input. And so I'm going to wrap up this episode now because we're at the 10-minute mark, I can see, and I got to get this uploaded. But I'm going to, in the future, try to turn all my processes or processes, I think is actually the correct pronunciation, into something that anybody can replicate and do for their native language and make something very useful for people for free, because I think that's a really cool thing to do. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed these first 100 episodes of this podcast. I will continue to make them, as I've been really enjoying it. And so I'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of A Daily Dose of English. I'll see you then. Bye.